Om Gayatri Mahamantra. Gayatri Mahamantra with your back straight, both hands on your laps, left beneath the right. Close your eyes. Join me for the chanting of Gayatri Mahamantra for once. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodaya. With the invocation of the Divine Master, we further into this journey of mystical Gayatri Mahamantra Part 2. Gayatri is a science. It is pure technology of consciousness. I am not sure to what extent shall the word technology suffice, but the common understanding that we draw from technology about procedure and certain impacts, that's outcome, the same goes for consciousness. In the journey of Gayatri Mahamantra sadhana, the practice of Gayatri, having said it in the part 1 that we have initiated into this journey with one single objective at the moment, which is to gather self-confidence. Although Gayatri, according to the ancient scriptures, has been mentioned by our great exalted masters as Kama Dhenu. Yes, a symbolic representation of a holy cow who can bestow the seeker anything and everything under the umbrella of this cosmos. You seek anything of it, and it's given, for nothing is beyond it. And this is not merely some kind of an allegory or an indication, but a true aspect which has been withstood by our great masters since times unknown, and they withstood and presented themselves as a testimony to that. And I happen to be among those fortunate ones who has been a direct witness of such an exalted one, who was in himself a living form of Gayatri, the powers of Gayatri. Having said that, now today we understand Gayatri as a technology, and unless we handle it like a technology which has a procedure, it certainly has few do's and don'ts. Not scary things or fears of do's and don'ts, but do's and don'ts of a procedure. Unless we follow a particular procedure, we cannot benefit from the energy of Gayatri, which has to come to us in the form of self-confidence. Before I embark upon few aspects of that, which shall also continue in more episodes of this series to come, I must mention the importance of self-confidence again, so that you understand what is the deliverable. We all know about Arjuna, who was there amidst with his mentor into the war zone. Under great impel of delusion, he was the most worthy one of the Kauravas and the Pandavas, both sides, but became worthless. On account of what? Somehow he lost his confidence owing to certain reason which he gave to himself, but were not substantiated by his mentor. He lost his confidence, and in the first chapter itself, he mentions to his mentor that my senses have ceased to work, at least on their minimum levels. My brain is not working. I am not able to think properly, not able to perceive properly. So I am almost like a person, a human, who is an object and not a subject. He makes this mention to his master because the entire confidence within him has been withdrawn. It has drained out. Let us remember at the same time that he was the worthiest of the all, the most preferred and chosen one by the mentor Krishna. Even with that kind of a capacity beheld within himself, he became worthless. Self-confidence was not there. There may be any reason which probably accrued to the draining of the confidence. That's a different aspect. He was trying to cite everyone as a kith and a kin and was not able to deploy arsenal against them. His relatives, his elders, his brothers, and so on and so forth. But the impact was in the form of loss of self-confidence. Had confidence been there, what is Krishna trying to do through all these different chapters of Bhagavad Gita? He is invoking wisdom which can restore that self-confidence into Arjuna. He is already the worthiest one. Nothing else has to come from outside. And that Arjuna was not there 5,000 or 30,000 years ago. That Arjuna prevails for all times. It is a timeless character under delusion. And who is that? It's into you, into me. We all in our life come across certain occasions when we are absolutely devoid of self-confidence, and even being the worthiest one, we become worthless. And henceforth, all our mental faculties cease to contribute their optimum. And then what happens? The only single word which I can use as a noun over here is weird. Everything becomes weird. Our response, weird. We, weird. Outcome, weird. Everything becomes weird. So self-confidence is the foremost thing that must come to us. And the self-confidence comes through the capacity to think rightfully, to be able to discern and distinguish between different facts in life. Unless that wisdom prevails, self-confidence shall not be able to manifest. In the science of Gayatri, the foremost objective which it intends to cherish is to manifest wisdom. Wisdom to the disturbed state of mind. And the moment wisdom is restored, there is a calmness which dawns within the seeker. Automatically, the effulgence within one, the effulgence in the form of the divine spark beheld deep into the cavity of our heart, as the scriptures mention. It by itself, its effulgence comes to the surface in the form of self-confidence as well. Atmabal then further translates into manobal. The light of the soul then further percolates down on the peripheral aspects understood as the self-confidence. But before that, wisdom must prevail. We should be able to bring all subjects of life to the right perspective, to the right place. See them in the right proportion, not into a disproportion whereby we give ourselves a fallacy as a belief and then we start acting as a weird. So Gayatri, the technology of Gayatri, the subtle force of those 24 vibratory letters, akshara, it restores wisdom to us. Dhiyo yonaha prachodayat. That ability to discern, distinguish and determine between different facts as they are, not as we inflate them or we get possessed by them or we superimpose certain perceptions upon to them or certain understanding, borrowed understanding upon them. Removal of all superimpositions from all subjects objects, situations, and people that we come across and see everything in its true form. That restores the wisdom. Once this happens, the effulgence comes by itself outward in the form of self-confidence. This is how it works. But having said that, if you start practicing Gayatri tomorrow, or you may have started practicing, or you would have been practicing it since long, maybe there are complaints that I'm not able to garner the kind of results that I seek. What is the problem? Where is the miss? There is some sort of a knack which I am not able to observe. I told you at the outset, it is a technology. We must understand, and this technology has to be understood in the true perspective like energy generation in the physical form. When we generate electricity in the physical form, or any fossil fuel that we deploy for cooking even in our kitchens, the same way goes for all. Whether it is a fossil or it's energy, it has to be channelized for the rightful purposes in the rightful manner. It is not so that you keep the engine running for no reason and you allow the fuel to deplete at the same time your engine, your mechanism to depreciate. No, you cannot. You do not. You start the engine and then you meaningfully steer it for some objective. And the same goes for the cooking stove, where you deploy the gas. You don't leave the burner with intense flame just burning. You have a purpose for that. Once you are done with that purpose, you conserve that energy for further use, meaningfully utilizing the energy. Do we understand the same for Gayatri? I suppose very few people understand about that. Then how do we drain out our energy, that whatever we try to garner from Gayatri? Garner energy and garner the results from it. The energy that we gather from Gayatri may be in a small form, in a small amount of energy that we gather initially, is immediately lost to the way we spend our time, attention, and energy. We are not vigilant for that now we have embarked upon a technology whereby we have to be constantly cautious about not spending, not allowing it to get drained away into meaningless, unmindful purposes. We lose that vigil. For we understand that now, since we have started propitiating Gayatri by its incantation, everything rest shall be taken care by itself. Now, where is our responsibility to treat it as technology? We don't treat it as a proper technology with a procedure and precautions, the premonition that must be observed. And then we complain that these spiritual pursuits, spiritual exercises are nothing more than a hocus pocus. Nothing comes out of them. Nothing serves the purpose. And then ultimately we are left without much to gather. So that kind of a premonition has to be observed beforehand, that this is a technology. We are going to generate some energy in the form of prana, and we must equally be cautious enough that not to allow it, or rather to disallow it to get drained away. Such a precaution, once that comes to your mind, then obviously what will happen is unnecessarily entangling yourself into certain issues. You'll start saving yourself from that. Why? I am a practitioner of Gayatri. I have embarked upon a special pursuit of technology of the soul, whereby I am propitiating Gayatri. I am gathering energy. Let it not be drained out unnecessarily, unmindfully. By practicing one mala of Gayatri, if you imagine that there is a small amount of energy that you've been able to gather, and that gets drained out just upon a single phone call for no reason, which you could have otherwise saved yourself from. Now, when we talk about eating food, swallowing it, devouring food, people devour, they swallow. And after that, we want to sit down and meditate or study. After a heavy intake of diet, can you sit down sincerely for your studies? No. What has happened? All your energies are now deployed to consume, to digest the food. So nothing left with the brain to handle. The brain is helpless at the moment. Everything, all energies have been summoned up by the stomach because it is heavily under the load. The same has to be understood by the seeker of a Gayatri. There has to be certain changes which must be brought in by the seeker at the end of thoughts, at the end of conduct, at the end of diet. Thought, conduct, diet. Thought, conduct, diet. And become cautious upon what? Time, attention, energy expenditure. Time, attention, energy expenditure. Are these basics? They may appear to be very basic to you. But without any base, can you imagine to erect any skyscraper? No skyscrapers can come upon unless there is some base beneath them. However simple and ordinary they may appear, but they are the fundamentals. Without them, nothing can be raised up. You cannot imagine to raise anything upon that. No edifice can be raised. So, must believe that these aspects have to be brought into my life as a seeker of Gayatri, as a practitioner and a sadhak of Gayatri. There has to be some change which has to be incorporated at the end of our thought, diet and conduct. Some. I am not asking you to make any kind of a drastic surgical changes in your life. No, nothing, no thought. Slight awareness. Even the slightest of awareness at the back of your mind about your thought, conduct, diet to save upon your time, attention, energy shall suffice initially. Yes, there are procedures for handling certain assignments of high stature. For example, if there is some kind of a great problem or a chaos that has to be handled, or for that matter, you want abundant amount of energy through Gayatri, there is a procedure for that which is termed as anusthana, whereby you impose upon yourself several restrictions and get into a very intense practice of Gayatri sadhana, and thereby you generate great amounts of energy. But that is something not for the beginners. It is only for those who have already embarked upon sadhana and now a considerable period of time has passed whereby they have been able to accelerate their Gayatri japa, the practice of Gayatri japa, and now they can easily handle sufficient amount of japa in one sitting. So it is for them. For them, this technology slightly intensifies, goes on to the next level. But for a common seeker seeking self-confidence, this much of a precaution observed is enough. Enough. If 100% precaution or caution has to be observed, merely 10% of it, if it is observed within a seeker, things will start moving. And you will start observing that there are changes which I can now decipher within myself. They are happening. I can observe them within myself. By having said that, let me again reiterate and mention, there are no scary do's and don'ts with it. Gayatri is understood as a mother. So having understood as a mother, in the technology of Gayatri, the science of Gayatri, there are no scary do's and don'ts. If I don't do this, there is going to accrue some burden upon me, some karmic bondage. No, please absolutely be out of it. Do not disallow any such thought to intervene in your mind and create any amount of scare. No, disallow it, rebut it. Even if it comes through some other source, rebut it. Yes, as in the form of a technology, certain observations are mandatory, and those observations will correspond to gathering yourself at one point of time so that you become more consolidated at the end of awareness when you're practicing Gayatri. Yes, post your practice, there are certain restrictions so that the energy, bioenergy gathered within your body it is allowed to assimilate within, and you disallow it to getting drained away, and therefore certain principle of conduction has to be observed, but not in the form of any papa, punya, sin, etc. No, please don't get into that. If you understand that, you will certainly see things coming your way in far better manner. Now, you have to understand the procedure of Gayatri in another form also. What is it? Anything and everything in this cosmos works upon two principles. What are those? There is a system and there is an energy which propels it. Whether that particular concept or whether that existence or entity is mechanical, electrical, electronic, or it is financial, whatever may be, the entity could be anything and everything. There has to be a system, and then there has to be a fuel, energy, which has to propel the system. So unless both are brought together, nothing moves. Likewise for Gayatri, there is a Shiva and there is a Shakti. Shiva is the system. Shakti propels the system. The system of Gayatri is of 24 letters. The system of Gayatri is to make yourself available, consolidate your awareness. And the energy is when you start practicing it, the system comes into action and energy generation happens. So it is system and energy in working. At the end of your consciousness, at the end of your awareness, within yourself, it is happening into your subtle zone, in the subtle dimension. So once you understand that it is the Shiva and Shakti, even if you don't want to take Shiva and Shakti in the form of our idols as we perceive them, you can even take them as a system and an energy that propels the system. Because Shiva and Shakti, they are a symbolic representation of this cosmic entity in the form of system and the energy that propels it. And they both, when they enjoin with each other, then some outcome transpires. It comes into form, and then we're able to witness and make use of it. While I'm saying and sharing all this with you, let me again reiterate, because at the moment I'm trying to give you an understanding of Gayatri at its basics, so that you can associate with it, you can start practicing it. And by the way, time you practice, there may be certain things that may crop up in your mind. I've already mentioned the email in the footnotes which the video shall carry, with the notes, or what you call them, details of the video. There you can write me about, in the email you can ask me, and within my own limited capacities I'll try to answer you back, so that it could be a two-way kind of a exercise. And do not expect me to answer the same way as business mails are answered immediately. There may be some lapse of time in between your mail and then for me to come back to you, but accommodate that, accept that initially, but the answers will certainly come to you. Now, having said that, some of you may have started practicing it. While you practice yourself with the sadhana, initially, there may be certain sadhaks who may confront certain problems with the posture. So, change of the posture initially for a seeker is allowed. Certainly it is allowed, because kaya sthirayam, that is, the stillness of the body is not gained. Your nerves, your muscles are not attuned to that. So do not worry. Even in the middle of the sadhana, if you want to spread your legs, if you cannot lock your legs, clasp them together, and you want to spread them, open your legs up. If there is space, adequate space enough, open your legs so that your body comes to a comfort. With the discomforted body, your awareness will not be able to consolidate. If there is a discomfort of the posture, then obviously you're going to come out, get distracted every now and then. Maybe that even there is a disruption in your practice. So allow yourself to at least open up. Try to observe to the extent possible, that when you practice Gayatri, there are not many of distractions around. There are certain distractions which are unavoidable. Like for example, when I was deliberating right now, there was a dog barking close by. So I had no control upon that because the dog was not mine. So there are certain unavoidable sounds that may intervene and try to distract you. But within your available capacities and potential, try so that no other worrying sounds can come in and distract and deflect your attention. For that matter, even if you can, you can place your earplugs into your ears so that the outside sound can be reduced to certain levels that does not hamper your concentration. Because initially when we sit down to practice any sadhana, any and every kind of an infringement or a disturbance from outside comes with some magnanimity, which obviously that magnanimity recedes. It recedes with the passage of time when you become more focused. Then you are not much concerned about it. You don't give much to it. Let it be there. You keep moving. But initially, yes, these small things, they come in and they try to disrupt or try to deflect or try to divert your attention. So do not get bothered about that. Deploy earplugs to the extent possible, and much more than that. Before you sit down for your sadhana, see, I told you, you have to be very conscious about your thought, conduct and diet. And I also mentioned to save upon your time, attention and energy, which also wants me to make a mention that when you are going to sit for the sadhana, accept everything which you do not have control upon. Sit down with that mindset, because the mindset is a word which is a very powerful word, especially for all those us who have been cast into the modern living, into the complexity ridden of the modern times. This word mindset is a very big, it's a frozen concept which takes time for one to really incinerate or to melt, but initially. So sit down with a mindset that I am going to accept whatever I cannot change. I cannot change if there is an intrusion in the room, although I informed people at home that please, when I am into practice of Gayatri, do not try to barge in. But even if I have said, that doesn't mean that if someone by mistake has barged in, come in, and for that matter, that should then become, post my sadhana practice, should become the subject of the day, and the confrontation should start from there onwards. No, accept it. Accept all that you have no control upon. If you accept all that you have no control upon, then anything and everything that will barge in or intrude as an infringement will not create any distortion or any unpleasant or disharmony to you. You will have already accepted whatever you do not have control upon. So, why? Because according to our understanding of sadhana, any kind of austerity, any kind of practice of sadhana is for the seeker, which cannot be superimposed upon others. Others may not be able to understand that. Others may not associate. The closest one in the family may not absorb the kind of understanding we are now getting into. We have evolved in a way that now we have associated with the science of soul, whereby we want to invoke certain practices for which they have a total disinterest at the moment. It does not mean that we have to superimpose our interest. Why am I sharing all this with Gayatri? Do they have any connection? They appear to be absolutely different. No, it's necessary. Because if I ask you to do this, this, like this, and my story ends, and beyond that, you are left within your environment to handle it the same way as you have been handling the affairs of life, what will happen? There will be chances for a lot of chaos to manifest. So it is necessary for me that for the complexity-ridden mind of today, with the kind of compulsions that we have, the kind of habitat that we have, kind of lifestyles that we have, kind of distinctive varied interests that we have, it is necessary that your mindset should be prepared as a seeker who becomes gradually immune, becomes and can endure all adversity that comes to infringe within your sadhana. So once that endurance is built up, then whatever I'm sharing is going to carry some meaning. Otherwise, a small intrusion by barging someone's interest into your sadhana, or by someone making a mention, why the hell you sit like this? Is this your age? Gayatri is a power. It is not a pastime for the old. It is not for the pastime for the old who have already depleted to certain extent in the aspects of the limbs and sensorial drivers. But it is the unfathomable energy for all those who want to charter the skies, uncharted high skies, whether outward or whether inward, irrespective of outward or inward. That's why he said Kamdhenu can manifest anything and everything, whether in the spiritual realms or the outward in the physical realms. So therefore the mindset must be prepared so that nobody's remark, nobody's mentioning, nobody's disinterestedness should be superimposed on you, or you superimpose yourself upon them and create a disharmony, and your practice of Gayatri gets deflected, discontinued for any reason. If you are well prepared to endure, come what may, outward or from wherever, inward, you will withstand, you will endure through. And your sadhana, your practice will cherish its purpose. Otherwise, even a small occurrence is enough to thwart you, to blow away your all efforts to practice this spiritual pursuit of Gayatri. So, prepare yourself. Revisit this recording once again so that you can associate with the preparation of the mind, your manahasthiti. Endure it right at the initial stage, that nothing, either in the form of a mention, remark, or an intrusion should be able to thwart you from your spiritual practice. Once that is done, then whatever I am going to further share with you in furtherance to this series shall carry some sense. Otherwise, you listen it today, practice it tomorrow. The third day, there is a small unpleasant exchange of words amongst each other at home or elsewhere, and then you say, not for me, go to hell. So you have to endure through all kinds of impacts, negative or whatever, coming from anywhere. So having said that, I'll keep visiting this aspect time and again in the series to come, because this is foremost. Why? Because in my experience of last 4 decades, more than 4 decades, I have observed people with great interest jumping down to sadhana. With the great allurement and attraction, they come, they pounce upon the sadhana, and with the same repel, they deflect, they get distracted and of course they have their own kind of tangible excuses, which are mostly outward. On account of her, on account of him, I could not. So I have been watching people coming, pouncing upon and then repelling from sadhana for reasons that are absolutely trivial, mundane, that could easily be endured through. And this is not going to cease initially. This is going to continue, because the way things are going to happen in the dimension of your own world within, nothing is going to change outward. They are going to remain the same. So, this is going to be a continuous affair for few people, that they will keep inviting certain infringements from outside, but they have to endure, come what may. Having said that, we will continue this journey of this series of this mystical Gayatri Mahamantra on this next Saturday under the Saturday Sattva series. Share it if you find it meaningful and purposeful for the others' life to evolve. Om hi satya hai. Om hi satya hai. Om hi satya hai. Having said that, I forgot to make a mention. We practice Brahma Muhurat Dhyan every day in the wee hours of the morning at 3:58 a.m. 2 minutes before 4 a.m. we start a practice, and now we have exactly accomplished, another few days to go, 3 years of this sadhana, which has been going by the under the blissful realms of the Divine Master without any kind of an interruption. Hope they will bestow the same grace upon us to let it continue the same way. If you can make up, the recording remains available till 8 a.m. and all this I mentioned according to the Indian Standard Time. Once again, Om Hi Satya Hai, Om Hi Satya Hai, Om Hi Satya Hai.